Alrighty, good morning everyone. It's Monday, June 21st, 2021, and we're going to get started here with our pre-market analysis for the S&P 500 futures market. There are a few things I do want to quickly point out here. First thing to notice, which is very interesting here, is, let me just bring up my 60-minute chart. Notice where we bounced in the overnight session or the Globex session here. Right off the 61.8 retracement of that leg that we talked about last week. So from the low from, what is that, about May 19th all the way to the all-time high. Remember, we drew this fib in last week and talked about some of these potential areas of support. And look where we bounced, I guess yesterday or probably last night. Pretty much to the tick right off of 41.27 there, which was, or 26.75, which was one tick below the 61.8 retracement level. All right, so just really awesome stuff. And then if you look at right now, the whole push down from the all-time high to the low we made in Globex, look at where we found resistance. Right at the 38% retracement. Now, granted, we didn't get some type of gigantic pullback here, but just pointing out again the strength of Fibonacci and why we use them. So I wanted to point that out really quickly. And then one other thing is what we had John point out last week, or actually yesterday in the chat, was all of the indications that we got before the sell-off on Friday. So if we look back here, and you can see it on the 1 minute, and we might just go ahead and look at it here on our short time frames, and you'll have to take my word that we saw the indication on the 3 and the 10 as well. But if you look here, right about, this was 12:45 Pacific on Friday of last week, we got a really clear indication here where we pushed just about a tick or two higher compared to that previous swing high, but got a very clear bearish divergence. Here it is on the 1 minute, here it is on the 512, and I might as well just bring it up. Here it is on the 3 minute right here. And then here it is on the 10 minute. Now the 10 minute, they were very close together. You can see, you have these two wicks up here pushing to a higher wick, and then a very clear bearish divergence there. So we had 10 minute, we had 3 minute, we had 1 minute, we had the tick chart, and then from there we had our sell-off into the close on Friday. So just interesting to note how well these type of setups work. And so let's jump into our pre-market analysis here for this morning. We're going to jump to our 3 minute here, or I'm sorry, our 3 month here, and take a look. And remember, last week we talked about how bearish this quarterly candle is looking right now. And give me one moment. I just need to make sure that my recording software is still working here so we can get this out. Okay. So you can see how bearish this candle looks, and we talked about this last week. Now we don't have any clear divergence setting up, but we do have a pretty clear bearish looking candle here, somewhat of a reversal candle. And so we do want to keep this in mind here. Our quarterly is starting to give us the first indications of some bearishness in the market. And then when we jump down to our monthly, we also talked about this last week, that this monthly candle also looks pretty bearish. And now you can see a huge, more than 50% of the candle is a wick to the upside there. And now we are actually below the opening price, at least as of right now. So somewhat bearish looking on the monthly as well. No indications of exhaustion from a divergence perspective, but definitely the candle itself is looking fairly bearish right now. Now here's the weekly, and remember at the beginning of last week we were looking at this candle right here, and we said that it confirmed a pretty bearish case from this weekly perspective. And because we broke above by 10 points when we were talking about it, I think we might have even broken above by 20 points. but we did break up significantly from that high. We thought that might be an indication that we negated that bearish case, but then just a day or two into this new candle forming, we noticed the potential of some bearishness showing here because we had pushed to a new high pretty significantly, not just by a tick or two, but by about 10 to 20 points. But we were pushing lower on RVI. And so at the beginning of last week, we had a clear indication, or we had indications of some bearishness on our weekly. And then look what ended up transpiring, over the course of the week. Ended up selling off and looking like we might have a deeper pullback here. But right now on the weekly, we have the bearish case from the candle that closed on Friday. And now here we are on the new candle. So not much to be said on the new candle, only because it has all week to develop and the story could change in a matter of just a few minutes. So right now things look kind of bearish here on the weekly, and then our ultra high time frames do have some bearish looking candles. When we jump to our daily, remember we talked about the case that could be made here for some bearishness off of that all-time high, although maybe not what I would ideally like to see. There definitely is a bearish case off the high, and then somewhat of a reversal type candle here at the top. Now remember last week we found a bullish indication off of, I believe that was Thursday's low, and that gave us that, along with some other indications, gave us some bullishness going into Friday. And then on Friday we even had a decent bullish indication off of that low, but because of other indications in the market, we had a bearish bias that morning, if I recall correctly. But there was an indication, but this had continued to follow through here, so we basically have to remove this and show that it actually closed way down here. And so that bullish indication actually was not there by the time that candle officially closed. So we have to get rid of these lines here. There definitely was a bit of bullishness off of that low on Thursday, but then on Friday this candle closed and did not show that anymore. And so here we are today. Again, this candle does have all day to develop. The story could be changing. I do want to point out just how interesting it is that we did bounce here pretty much to the tick off of the 61.8 retracement in the overnight session here, off of this specific leg here. And right now there is somewhat of an argument for some bullishness off the low, and that's only going by this strict comparison here of the last time we were at this in this area on RVI. We actually were higher up, and now we're pushing a little bit lower despite price actually being a little bit higher. So there's a case that could be argued, but remember, as far as what I like to see, I'd like to actually see something in the local area. For instance, a push lower here in price, but then we see that this actually ends up pushing higher here at the end of the day. That would be much more of a bullish case that I would prefer to see. But right now, things looks like they're trying to recover off of that 61.8 retracement and have pushed now from about 26 to about 73. So a 50-point push here just in the overnight session. So we might start to see the beginnings of some more volatility here in the market, which is a good thing for us as day traders. And so that's where we are on the daily. Like I said, I'm not a huge fan of extrapolating back, but we can do that and get a bullish case there off the low, and off the high. Everything just looks normal. We just keep making lower highs, and the indicator keeps making the lower highs from that perspective. So I think that will do it for the daily here. I'm not sure what I just did, but I just did something to the chart there. And so let's go over to our 4-hour here and take a look in this local area if we have any clear indications off of that overnight low there, which happens to be exactly at 26.75. Not necessarily any type of bullish case there to confirm what we could potentially argue on the daily here, So absolutely no confluence. Again, also going to the weekly, no bullish indications. So this daily indication, I don't have a lot of faith in, only because the two surrounding time frames are not confirming. Now, currently, just looking kind of in the local area here, notice this candle. If we zoom in a little bit, huge, in my opinion, that's very bullish looking right there. Huge wick to the downside, closed pretty close to where it opened, and then this huge push out of that area. So that looks pretty strong there. And currently, remember, this bar does have, let's see, about 45 minutes to form. So we don't really want to say anything at the moment. You could argue that if we don't actually break above the high at 77.50 up here, that we would have somewhat of a little bearish indication here on our 4 hour. So we'll just have to kind of watch this as we get into the open in that first half hour and see what happens. Remember, the whole story could be changing here. And then we do want to consider, I have been kind of sleeping on this one, considering 50% of this 4 hour candle that closes at 3 a.m. Really important level. You'll see it react time and time again. So let me just get the actual number on that, and then we'll move on here. So 50% of that candle would be 41.56, let's say 75. So I do want to put that on the chart here and make sure we track that, especially on this type of candle, which has such a nice range. That 50% could be a pretty important number or a level this morning. So I just want to get that on there. So right now, that 4 hour, not necessarily a huge bullish indication from a divergence perspective, but definitely a nice reversal looking bar there. That could mean that we just got this 50-point push up and now we're going to continue lower. But to keeping that in mind here, and we'll go to our 60-minute and just see what's going on here. Again, not necessarily any clear bullish divergences off of that overnight low, so no real confirmation off of that one daily potential indication we have. So not necessarily expecting any type of huge bounce off of that 61.8 level there, 26 quarter going for some push in to test the all-time high, because I don't necessarily have a whole bunch of confluence down there off that low, which tells me we probably have lower to go. Again, anything is possible in the market. This could be the low and we come up and push to new all-time highs, but my signals are not necessarily indicating some type of huge reversal off of the overnight low. Now in this current area, there's definitely some bearishness. So we have somewhat of a confirmation of what we're seeing here on our 4 hour candle that does have some time to develop here. We can see that confirmation from a 60-minute perspective. And again, that high there at 77.50 is going to be important. If we can't get above 77.50, it's going to hold the bearish case that has already formed on our hourly. And then our 4 hour will also hold a bearish indication, assuming the signal stays like that on RVI. So we'll watch that 77.50. If that breaks, then any type of bearish bias we might have is going to be broken. We also do want to consider the retracement of this whole push down, this specific leg. So we have the entire push down from the all-time high to the overnight low here, and we are sitting, like I pointed out when we started, right at the 38% retracement. So we had a bounce off the 61 of the entire push up from all the way back here, and then we have some resistance at the 38% retracement, pretty much to the tick of the whole push from the down from the all-time high. So if this breaks, then we could expect more upside, and we'll have some levels above us to contend with. But right now, the 60-minute and the 4 hour, so the 1 hour and the 4 hour, are showing some bearishness off of the current overnight high that we have in the market. And if we can get above that, remember that will be negated. Also, just noticing here off of the overnight high to where we are right now in price, we also do have that bearish indication. Now this candle does close in about 40 minutes, so a lot of time for things to change, and we'll have to kind of watch it. I do see all these big wicks to the downside, which could indicate a turn here to push higher. But remember, we have some conditions here. If they can't break 77.50, then we could expect some type of pullback. We don't know how far back it will pull back, but we do have some interesting levels down below us here to look at if we do get to that part of the chart. So let's go down to our intermediate time frames here and see in that local area there if we have any clear indications. We'll start with our 30-minute and looking at the most local leg here. Remember where we got all those bearish indications on Friday that we talked about. So from Thursday night coming into Friday, we had a lot of bearish indications. And then just before the open on Friday, or around 3 a.m. Pacific, so about 3.5 hours before the open, another bearish signal here on the 30-minute, and it also had some confluence on other time frames. So a lot of bearish indications coming into Friday, and then that huge sell-off. So this whole leg from basically the high of Thursday down to our overnight low for today, notice we're right around 50% of that. Right, so all these different ratios are all really working out nicely, which is again why I stick with Fibonacci analysis. So in this local area, definitely from that previous swing high area back here where we were doing a divergent analysis on the higher time frames, we do have that same bearish indication, pretty extreme there as far as what you're seeing. And then let me just confirm. So not necessarily a bearish indication off these two highs here, just because this did push down by a tick and this pushed down just a little bit. So I'm not going to personally make the argument there for that. And so the 30-minute doesn't necessarily have anything too sexy going on right now. We do have the argument for some bearishness off 77.50. So again, watch that number here coming into the open. If they bust right through, it could mean we have a little bit higher to go. If they have trouble and cannot get through that level, or maybe they break through by a few ticks and we get another bearish indication, they very well could sell off. We do have 50% of the previous daily price action right there at 41.80 quarter, and then all the swing lows from price action of Thursday of last week. So there's that swing low back there around 82, and then another one right at the KP right around 85. And so these are levels that the bulls will have to contend with if they do push through 77.50 here. So 30-minute does have that bearish indication there from 77.50, and not necessarily any super clear bullish indications off the local lows right now. We get to our 10-minute. Just looking to see if I have anything clear over here. And we did get a little bit of a bullish indication here in the overnight session. So just about 2 hours ago, somewhat of a little bullish divergence there off of around 66. And then it kind of followed through for a double divergence here, right around the lows that we made around 67.50. So some bullish indications in the overnight session, arguably the pre-market here, and we have tried to push. Now let me just see here. Did get a bearish indication there, so a little bit choppy in here, but at least we do have some conditions coming into the open this morning. 77.50 is going to be a key line in the sand, and then we want to keep in mind 50% of the previous day, and some of those swing lows we talked about back here could be some difficulty on the push higher. And outside of that, I'm not going to argue for anything else here on the 10-minute. And so if we could wrap things up here, give me one moment to take a look at my charts, and I might as well bring them up on the screen here. Ultra high time frames don't necessarily have bearish divergences, but definitely some bearish candlestick indications right now. Our weekly has that bearish indication off of the all-time high with no bullish indications right now. Our daily, same bearish indication off the all-time high. The potential of some type of bullish case could be made off of the overnight low, but it's not, there's no agreement on the 4-hour or the weekly for that daily indication. And right now the 4-hour, the hourly, and the 30-minute are all showing some bearishness off of the current overnight high around 77.50. So if we can get through 77.50, we can expect higher. But if we do get some clear indications of some bearish signals at some of these key levels above us, we can go ahead and try those to see if we get some type of larger pullback. And then on the pullback itself, we do have some key levels below us if we do get some clear bullish indications. But things look a little bit more bearish than they do bullish this morning. So that will be where we stand. Even if we do break through 77.50, we do have somewhat more of a bearish case looking at every single time frame than we do have any type of bullish case right now.